with one of the stars of Shooting Heroin movie, Lawrence Hilton Jacobs, and we are on set at the house burning.
Formerly Denzel Snipes, but now Lawrence Hilton Jacobs.
Well, we appreciate you coming to Central Pennsylvania and
Appreciate it.
taking part in this really historic event. I mean, this is a pretty big movie being
really
shot in
stretching
this
it.
part of the state.
Spencer Fulmar wrote a nice script, which is why we all responded to it, and it's dealing with something that is so prevalent in our times right now. The opioid nonsense is just all over the place. I grew up in New York City, where the heroin epidemic, if you want to call that, in the late 60s, early 70s, it was just ridiculous. It seemed like every third person or every fifth person was on junk. And so, it seemed like it would never end, and it cost a lot of lives. I lost a friend from it, so it's pretty hardcore.
So this is something that, for
I can
you,
relate.
the message of the movie was something that was very
Well, it
personal.
has some personal
to you,
resonance in it for me. I can relate. I saw it every day. I watched my friends starting to snort dope when they were 10 years old, and which sounds ridiculous, but it's real. That's how it was.
Kid. What struck you about the script in this? In the message?
The message that I said is a message that needs to be addressed. A nice way to educate or enlighten people or inform people is through film. A lot of times, if you try to tell them in their classroom, they don't want to hear it. They don't want to read the newspaper. But if you put it in the film, it's entertaining, and they can sometimes get a little bit of a little lift that can help. And sometimes just by getting the word out is enough, because it gives somebody something to respond to.
Yeah. Now, you've been in the industry a long time. We were talking,
Absolutely,
and I recognized the man, and they said he played Washington on the 70s sitcom Welcome Back, Kotter. And I grew up, of course, watching that show.
And I was already an adult when I did it.
John Travolta's breakout role, right?
Big time for Johnny, and Gabe Kaplan, Robert Hedges, Ron Palillo, Marsha Strassman, and John Sylvester White, who played the principal. And we're still friends.
That's awesome.
To this day, which is kind of lucky and a nice thing. What happened with us, we just became, because we didn't know a lot about what we were doing in terms of television, when we came together, myself, Bobby, Ron, and John became almost one that was four. And that became our savior, but it bonded us like brothers. And that's the relationship we have to this day.
Now, we have a lot of my students, so we can directly address my digital media students, man. A lot of these kids come to me and they want to be the next PewDiePie. They want to be the next famous YouTuber, So they have a love of technology, of course, and we're teaching them graphic design, web design, audio production, video production. We're giving them the whole experience. But many of them, once they get under the lights and once they get in front of that camera, they get bit by that bug. And they start saying to me, Mr. E, could I move into acting? Is this a legitimate trajectory for me to go on once I understand the basics of the business?
We're in a high-tech world. That's here to stay, and that's been for a long, long time. And many things, sometimes when you do multi-things, I don't have a habit.
It's cold out here. It's very cold out here.
It can all be related at some point. If you're doing digital technology and so forth, and you decide that I want to be a performer or a director or a writer, and things like that, you can find that a lot of that stuff, it all employs to each other, and it helps you to springboard forward. There's a commonality in the protocol of what it's about. And so you just have to relate it a little bit differently. No different in singing or opposed to playing basketball.
Right.
There is a progression, to get there. And so it teaches you that, you can learn. Acting is tough, and it's a rough business. Let's get it real and stuff like that. But so is a lot of stuff, In my mind, I wouldn't have it any other way, because it's the truth. And that's what acting is really. People. So a lot of young actors, or sometimes when I have young students, and they'll say, "Well, Mr. Jacobs, what is the key to being an actor?" And I said, honesty. If you come from being honest, that's where you springboard from, and you can create. And James Cagney said it the best, and he's got the best. He says, I don't know if I know a lot about acting, but all I know is you plant your 2 feet, you look the other guy straight in the eyes, and you tell him the truth. It's that simple. And so, but that's what makes it difficult sometimes, because it's so simple. We want to elaborate and be intellectual and layer it and get insecure and all that. Well, you have to go through that, but then you bring it back to your truth, and you let their instincts take over a little bit, because those things are going to kick in that you put on reserve, and that's the big key.
One of my favorite actors, Chris Walken. I saw an interview with him one time, and he said the key to his success was that he never played a role. He always took a part, but played it as Christopher Walken.
What you do is, acting is extensions of who we are as a person. You know, if I'm going to play somebody who's psychotic and murdering babies, this means that I'm going to do that, and I certainly wouldn't do that. I got my
Sure.
own babies, but you relate it. You have to relate it to yourself first, so you can have an understanding. You know, if I'm going to get mad about something, or if I'm going to be a religious freak, if that's the role, I have to think about how Lawrence Hilton Jacobs will respond to it, how to feel about it. Then I take it into the character. Like in this particular movie, I'm playing a guy named Edwards, who is a prison guard, but this opioid thing has gotten him. His personal friends have lost their kids. He's got a young family. You know, he wants things to be better, and he feels handcuffed until he goes to a deputy, and the sheriff of the town, and they take the chance to be deputized. But now it gives him, he's over anxious because now he's almost like a vigilante because he has to stop this, and he takes it to a point where it's too far because he's so focused, and he loses a great friend, and it puts another focus on him that this has to be taken care of, but there's a way, and things happen in time. That's real life. All things happen in time. You have to give it time.
That's
It's like
awesome.
playing cards. You're playing cards, you're playing poker with somebody, you let the other guy play his hand. But now you know how he played. So you can understand how to make your move. That's life. You know,
Great
that's
advice.
anything.
Sound advice, absolutely. Tell us what the scene is here that's happening right now. We're here in front of this White House. There's some faux house fronts up here. They're going to burn down. What's the scene that they're filming?
Well, what
now?
has happened is that the whole opioid and the drugs it's gotten to be so prevalent in the neighborhoods and in the community that the people are reactive to it. They want something to be done about it, and of course others are opposing. So it causes a riot. You know, and the riot, I don't want to give all the movie away, but it people, it's like a kettle boiling. It just boils up to where now, boop, it's exploding.
So we got a crowd of vigilantes coming.
You got a whole, and here they come too right now.
Yep.
A whole bunch.
Hey,
Yeah.
they didn't say gangsters.
Huh?
We gangsters were up there waiting. Nobody said gangsters. Did we miss our part?
I don't
No,
know.
you're
I don't
fine.
think so.
Or am I fine?
There you go.
Yeah, you're fine.
There'd be a lot of people that would debate that.
Well, Mr. Jacobs, I really, really appreciate the opportunity to speak with you, man. You're quite a gentleman. Welcome to Central Pennsylvania.
Appreciate it.
Lawrence Hilton Jacobs.
Keep it tight, y'all.
Absolutely, absolutely. Peace.
All right.